Welcome to the OK Book Club, where we dive into books, stories, people, and tons of different topics so we can learn something new every day and hopefully along the way have some fun. Can you hear that in the background? Jasper. Yes, it's Jasper. Okay, he's been doing his zoomies, and we just came back from a long walk in the rain. He finally ate his dinner, and now, you know how dogs, they scratch the bed or the carpet just to kind of like instinctually get their bed ready so they can sleep. He's been scratching this linoleum floor for 3-4 minutes. It's going on and on. I think he's finally given up. But anyway, let's get into one of the Aesop's fables. This is The Fox and the Crow. And what we'll do, friends, is I will read each story out loud. As you know, the Aesop's fables, they are short. And then we'll pause. And I'd like you to think about what you think the message is that we can take from this particular fable and all the ones going forward that I'll have episodes on. The idea is, what is the moral of the story? What is the lesson we can apply to our life? And let's think about it overall, and then maybe a different lesson from the point of view, in this case, maybe from the fox, or maybe from the point of view of the crow. And this is important before I begin. You can read along with this. Just Google Aesop's Fables and go to the website. There's 2 or 3 down. That is from the Library of Congress. You'll see tons of these fables. And what's very interesting is, and we'll talk about this at the end of this episode, but there is many different versions of all these individual fables. This one particularly is from the book that was published in 1919, The Aesop for Children, pictures by Milo Winter, and it was published by Rand McNally, which is a famous publisher, not only of tons of books, but especially children's books. Those adults, you may recognize that publisher. But follow along, like I said, with the Library of Congress website. These stories, obviously, it's 2,500 years old. They're in the public domain. So we'll talk about differences in the story, but let's get to it. The Fox and the Crow. One bright morning, as the fox was following his sharp nose through the wood in search of a bite to eat, he saw a crow on the limb of a tree overhead. This was by no means the first crow the fox had ever seen. What caught his attention this time and made him stop for a second look was that the lucky crow held a bit of cheese in her beak. No need to search any farther, thought sly Master Fox. Here is a dainty bite from my breakfast. Up he trotted to the foot of the tree in which the crow was sitting and looked up admiringly. He cried, "Good morning, beautiful creature." The crow, her head cocked on one side, watched the fox suspiciously. But she kept her beak tightly closed on the cheese and did not return his greeting. "What a charming creature she is," said the fox. "How her feathers shine! What a beautiful form and what splendid wings! Such a wonderful bird should have a very lovely voice, since everything else about her is so perfect. Could she sing just one song, I know I should hail her Queen of Birds." Listening to these flattering words, the crow forgot all of her suspicion and also her breakfast. She wanted very much to be called Queen of Birds. So she opened her beak wide to utter her loudest caw, and down fell the cheese straight into the fox's open mouth. "Thank you," said Master Fox sweetly as he walked off. "Though it is cracked, you have a voice sure enough. But where are your wits?" So, children and adults, pause this right now and come on back. Think about, what do you think the moral of the story is? Along with that, what do you think the message is that you can apply to your life? Okay, here's my take. We'll take it from the point of view of both animals, but up front, overall, what do you think about this? Don't be gullible. Be wary of those who praise you. People can have hidden agendas, and nice is not always nice. Now, for children that are listening to this, students of mine that are listening to this, when you give a moral, when you give a message, you have to have evidence. Why do you say that? Explain why you're saying that, taking evidence from this short story, right? So if you say, well, don't be gullible, gullible means believing anything someone says, being easily persuaded, right? So why is that the lesson? If the crow had not believed the fox and was really thinking critically, guess what? He would have had this nice cheese to chomp on. Now, we're clearly taking these messages from the point of view of the crow. Be wary of those that are constantly praising you. Think twice. But if you're looking at it from the point of view of the fox, well, the fox is the clever one here. So maybe the lesson to be learned is, if you need something, think, strategize, right? Be smart. And in this case, it was clear that the crow had the advantage and it was the smarter one. And finally, how about this one? It's all about flattery, right? It's nice to hear other people saying wonderful things about you. But how about this? Don't worry about what other people say. Even if it's good, certainly don't rely on other people's thoughts of who you are. Think for yourself. Be happy with yourself. In this case, this crow was fooled, and he wouldn't have been fooled if he wasn't so concerned about praise and being flattered and being told that he was great. Now, I made mention of this in the beginning of the episode, but there is so many different adaptations. Friends, adaptations mean different versions of Aesop's Fables. I bought a book that is throughout the country at Barnes & Noble. There's no indication as to where these fables came from Barnes & Noble. It's published by Sterling Publishing from 2017. Then I have this Scholastic version of this book, Apple Classics, retold by Anne McGovern. Just a little tiny book. And it was actually written in 1963. Nevertheless, the Barnes & Noble version starts off in this way: a crow having stolen a piece of cheese from a cottage window. So this crow is no saint. He's a thief, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, well, maybe he had this coming to them. If you're going to steal something, I'm going to steal something. And maybe this could be, you talk about going down a rabbit hole, figuratively speaking, you can clearly come out with a lot of morals here. And I bring this up about stealing the piece of cheese because from the Scholastic version, here's how it starts. A hungry crow stole a piece of cheese. Right? So, again, from that vantage point, well, he was hungry, so why not steal a piece of cheese? At least he's looked at a little bit more favorably. So the morals that are written here in all three different editions, the Barnes & Noble edition I have, this old Scholastic edition, and the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress says the flatterer lives at the expense of those who will listen to him. Even these morals, children, you have to slice and dice here just to figure them out. So what this is saying, children, is that basically the fox's gain is the crow's loss. When you say that someone lives at the expense of others, that person is causing harm to the other person. So this is what the fox did to the crow. Another moral is remember not to trust those who praise you falsely. And finally, very much to the point, beware the flatterer. And again, children, if you're flattering someone, that means that you're telling someone that they are wonderful when in fact you don't believe it. So you'll hear the expression, don't flatter me. Oh, you have such wonderful hair this morning. And if you know your hair is no good, you just rolled out of bed, you know this person's mean, you'll just say, don't flatter me. It's a great power word. So I hope you've enjoyed this Aesop's fable, The Fox and the Crow. And as you may know, the fox has a reputation, and the reason it's known as being conniving, being clever, being treacherous, it all goes back to Aesop and his fables. So this has been the OK Book Club. Join us next time where we can dive into some more books, stories, people, and tons of different topics. And let's keep learning.